They say never meet your heroes. You might get disappointed. I might add to that, never join your heroes. I briefly had met Curtis Sliwa, or rather observed him in live setting in the run-up to a concert in September 2001 that happened some 2 weeks after the tragic events of 9/11. The concert was being planned prior to that as a show of support to Israel in the situation when it was being under pressure to make more concessions to the Palestinians. Um, and the concert was originally being organized by the radical Jewish movement that was one of the successors to the late Mayor Kahana's Jewish Defense League. I never quite shared that ideology, but for a while I hung out with that community, with that group, in particular with one Mike Guzovsky, who, from what I understand at least, had a fairly close relationship, maybe more ideological than anything else, with Curtis and his Guardian Angels movement. There were times I dreamed of joining Guardian Angels, but that never happened. And looking back, I think that that was probably for the better. In more recent times, in 2021 and 2025, I supported Curtis Sliwa as candidate for New York City mayor. I wrote articles in Russian-speaking press, spoke in his favor on the TV and radio shows in Russian language primarily, in which I often participate, and was sad to see his uh, coming up very short of success, especially in the last race, and have been on of the opinion, still am, that it was not Curtis Sliwa that cost Andrew Cuomo mayorship. Rather, it was Andrew Cuomo jumping back into the race as a independent candidate that may have cost Curtis Sliwa mayorship. But looking at what's going on right now, and something that I lately just recently found out or heard and saw from Curtis, I gotta say that maybe that's for the better too. After all, to have a an honest Israel basher like Zoran Mamdani as New York mayor, who, by the way, in my opinion, so far is taking fairly good care of the city that he was elected to lead, is better than to choose a showman that exploits hot issues and hot topics to make score some quick, cheap pops. I'm referring to Curtis's appearance on Piers Morgan Uncensored, where he, to my total shock, joined the currently loud and popular, even populistic, if you will, choir of Israel denouncers, parroting the narratives that it was Israel and, in particular, current Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu who dragged, or if you will, wagged America and President Donald Trump into the current war with Iran. Um, and the problem with this statement from Curtis is not even so much that he made that statement, but that that's a statement made for most part by the left wing, is also by many so-called new woke right people, to none of which camps I thought Curtis Sliwa belonged. I used to think that Curtis Sliwa is an extravagant but still more or less mainstream Republican in terms of his views. And again, harkening back to 25 years ago, I thought he was a sympathizer, not just of Israel, but even of some rather radical Jewish leaders and positions. Apparently, that was a pose required for him to score certain uh, PR points, if you will, by hanging out with somebody who had a sort of similar reputation to his own. Because today, to be saying all those things that it was Netanyahu and Israel that dragged the United States, while as um, Josh Hammer, the current editor in chief of Newsweek, pointed out, Netanyahu last met with Trump in late December, before not even Iran, but before Venezuela events. And I'll add from myself that just a couple weeks prior to the start of February war on Iran, it was the Saudi defense minister Khaled bin Ibn Salman, a younger brother of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, who met with Trump in White House and apparently pressed to stage that operation. Yet nobody is talking that loudly about that. So basically, Curtis Sliwa is jumping on a popular, dubious but currently popular uh, bandwagon of Netanyahu accusers. Now, people knowing me know that I am currently very anti-Netanyahu myself. I believe that for a while he was the right man to lead Israel and presided or prime minister, if you will, over tremendous economic success. But he then clearly overstayed his welcome. That happens with many politicians, even in democratic world. That clearly happened with Viktor Orban in Hungary. That happened several years ago with Silvio Berlusconi. You just, back in the 60s, it happened probably to Charles de Gaulle. You just have to know when to quit. But as we know, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. You get drawn to power like to a drug, and you can't get off of it unless you're forced off of it. Um, of course, in this setting, I agree with many people that it would be better for Israel if Netanyahu were replaced. Problem is that his possible replacements are almost one same type of foreign policy hawks when it comes to Israel. So there will be no serious change, at least originally, in the political line. There will be a change in personality leading that line, but not in the political line itself. Curtis Lee was thunderously proclaiming in his raspy voice that I used to think belongs to a principled evil and crime fighter, that he's a peace man who wants peace in Middle East, was very entertaining, but not in a good way, because you would expect somebody like Curtis Sliwa to advocate for removal of such entities as the Iranian regime. And instead, he is uh, predictably, tiredly pinning all the blame on Israeli side. And coming off as almost a President Trump sympathizer, which to my knowledge, Curtis Sliwa has never actually been. Actually being one of the loudest, probably anti-Trump voices remaining in Republican Party, at least until recently. Basically, I have come to conclusion that Curtis Sliwa is all style and little substance. Somebody who is known to stage or significantly uh, blow out of proportions tribulations that he has gone through. I understand now his kind of weather vane position on Israel issue, uh, even though this was the first time ever that I saw him interviewed. And maybe I have not been following him or the information world too closely, but this is the first time, honestly, that I've seen him interviewed on foreign policy matters. Again, despite his formerly close relationship with the radical Jewish figures. Of course, when you are a New York City politician or, in case of Sliwa, a political influencer, if you will, you are never purely local. New York City is the world's capital. Potentially being its mayor brings with itself predictably certain obligations and certain stances and roles that you will play if you are elected to that position. Nevertheless, I had the feeling that Curtis generally took this opportunity to simply remind of itself. Well, Curtis, your political lifetime, as sadly it appears, physical lifetime, seem to be ticking in the direction of running out. I don't think you're gonna run again, even for mayor of New York or for any other elected position, even though there might be chances that if you were younger and more uh, energetic at this point, more full of vigor, then maybe there could be some opening for you. But I don't think there will be, just given your own condition. And to be honest, after what I saw in your performance on Piers Morgan, I think it's a good thing too. Now, let me again reiterate. I am myself currently a heavy opponent of Bibi Netanyahu. So, what's the difference between me denouncing Netanyahu and Curtis Sliwa denouncing Netanyahu? I think the difference is that I am consistent and Curtis Sliwa is not. Curtis Sliwa was one thing 25 years ago and a different thing today when it comes to Israel hardline, so to say. And it's clearly not a product of evolution of political views of this person. It's a product of uh, desire to jump into a conversation and say something presumably relevant. I, 30 years ago, was jubilant when Bibi Netanyahu won Israeli premiership because I considered him a standard bearer of opposing to the what I saw as hypocritical and false liberal or pseudo-liberal new world order advocated by Clintons, by Peres, Rabin, by Mitterrand, and other mostly left-wing leaders of the world, in particular free world in the day. Today, for the same reason, I oppose Netanyahu because he has become the embodiment of the same baloney and BS, the same kind, even if right-wing, but the same hypocritical and false, farcical, pseudo world order. And when I see people uh, going off their own path, in particular to maintain power, that's what enrages me. That's what sets me against them. Not the desire to jump on a popular bandwagon and have my own voice sound among the choir of banalities. I've been all my life the enemy of banalities, and what I saw from Curtis Sliwa and Piers Morgan Uncensored was a bunch of banalities, coming from a man who essentially used to have a totally different position when it suited him better. I find it impossible from now on to keep supporting a turncoat, even if the coat that he wears is beautiful red. As that saying goes, be careful what you wish for, it might come true. And looking back at 2021 and 25, I'm thinking maybe it's for the better that what I wished for on those occasions, that Curtis Sliwa become New York City mayor, did not materialize. Although, while, as I already mentioned myself, mayorship of New York brings certain international roles, still you first and foremost are the city head. And perhaps as a city head, he could give a kick on the ass to some people that need that kick on the ass. but that's not gonna happen anymore, I presume. And in any case, it's not gonna happen with my support. Now I understand that I am an under the radar, as of yet, small time, mostly Russian speaking journalist, blogger. Don't even know if I can in earnest call myself an influencer yet. And Curtis Sliwa, while possibly seeing me once or twice in life, probably has no idea who I am. Well, at this point in my life, I'll venture as far as to say that Mr. Sliwa and everybody else who don't know who I am yet, that is your problem and not mine. And once again, I'm done supporting Mr. Sliwa in his political endeavors because I found him nothing but a posturer and a poser and essentially a fraud. You are one of the biggest political disappointments I have ever had, quite on par with Viktor Orban, with Silvio Berlusconi, with already aforementioned Prime Minister Netanyahu, and perhaps some other people I don't feel like thinking of right now. Curtis Sliwa, I'm done with you, and I think you are done politically yourself.